Emily's heart pounded as she stared at her reflection in the mirror. Tomorrow, she would marry Michael, the man she had loved for years. But tonight, something felt off. A chill ran down her spine, and for the first time in months, a flicker of unease clouded her excitement. A knock on her door shattered the quiet. "Emily. Get up, bride-to-be. You can't spend your last night alone staring at yourself," Sarah's voice rang through the room, teasing yet urgent. Claire and Jessica's laughter followed, sharp and mischievous. Emily forced a smile. Okay, what's the plan?" Sarah leaned close, her eyes glinting in the dim light. "Tonight, you're going to have an unforgettable last night as a single woman." Emily laughed nervously. Something in her friends' voices felt off. But she brushed it aside. She trusted them, or at least she had thought she did. The friends stepped out into the Lagos night, the streets alive with honking cars, street vendors, and neon lights reflecting in puddles from the day's rain. They arrived at a high-end lounge overlooking the lagoon, music thumping like a heartbeat through the walls. Sarah had reserved a VIP section, complete with a champagne tower and endless cocktails. "Here's to Emily, the bride of the year," Claire shouted, raising her glass. Emily laughed, raising hers in return. The music, the lights, the laughter, for a moment, the nerves eased, replaced by a sense of excitement. But as the night wore on, Emily began to feel dizzy. The drinks tasted sweeter than usual, the room tilting slightly with each step. "There's a surprise waiting for you upstairs," Sarah whispered, leaning close to Emily. Emily blinked. "A surprise? Now. Just trust us. You'll thank us later," Claire and Jessica chimed in, their smiles a little too bright. Before Emily could protest, Sarah took her hand and led her upstairs to a private hotel suite. Her pulse quickened as the hallway seemed to stretch endlessly. The door clicked shut behind her, and the soft music from the lounge was replaced by an eerie quiet. A tall man in a sharp suit stood near the window, a glass of whiskey in hand. "This is Ryan," Sarah said sweetly, almost too sweetly. Emily's stomach churned. "What's going on?" "Relax," Sarah said, guiding her toward the couch. "Enjoy yourself. We'll be downstairs if you need us." The panic inside Emily now erupted. Her body felt heavy, almost paralyzed, and her mind clouded. Ryan stepped closer, and her thoughts became fragmented, flashes of him leaning over her, hands brushing her skin, and an overwhelming sense of helplessness. She wanted to scream, to push him away, but her body refused to obey. The night blurred into a haze of fear and confusion. The next morning, Emily awoke alone. Her head throbbed, the room smelled faintly of alcohol, and the bed beside her was rumpled and empty. Her phone buzzed. "Emily, I can't believe this. How could you do this to me?" It was Michael. Her stomach sank, a cold wave washing over her. She dialed his number with trembling hands. I didn't," she whispered. But he hung up. Everything she had planned, everything she had dreamed of, had crumbled overnight. Her wedding, her fiancé, her reputation, all gone. Emily sat frozen, her mind racing. The laughter from the night before echoed ominously in her mind. How could they betray her so completely? Her friends, the women she had trusted, had turned her life into a nightmare. Determined to uncover the truth, Emily visited the lounge where the events had begun. The staff was hesitant at first, but after some persuasion, a bartender reluctantly confirmed it: Sarah had slipped something into her drink. Pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Emily's friends had plotted her downfall out of jealousy, envy, or some twisted desire for control. But why? And more importantly, how could she protect herself now? Later that evening, Emily received an anonymous message, a link to the video that had ruined her life. Her hands shook as she clicked it. The footage was grainy, but unmistakable. It showed her in the hotel room, her body limp, eyes glazed over, while Ryan leaned over her in ways that made her stomach twist. Another message followed. You were never good enough for Michael. Now he knows it. Emily's world shattered. Betrayal, humiliation, and rage washed over her in waves. The people she had trusted the most, her closest friends, had weaponized her own life against her. But deep inside, a spark ignited. She wouldn't stay broken. She wouldn't hide. She would rise. The days that followed were grim. Emily cancelled her wedding, avoided Michael, and began piecing together what had happened. She called Sarah, Claire, and Jessica, demanding answers. Their responses were rehearsed, fake, and dripping with denial. But Emily could hear the cracks in their lies. Determined to reclaim control, Emily dug deeper. She revisited the lounge, questioned the staff, and began to understand the full extent of their betrayal. Her friends had drugged her, recorded her, and manipulated her life to humiliate her. But Emily didn't let despair consume her. She began to plan. Not revenge, at least not yet. First, she needed to survive, to rise above the ashes of her ruined life. She packed her belongings and moved to her Aunt Margaret's house in a quiet town far from Lagos. Aunt Margaret welcomed her with open arms, offering the comfort Emily desperately needed. In those quiet weeks, Emily allowed herself to grieve, to cry, and to nurse the wounds of betrayal. One morning, Emily woke with a strange sickness. Weeks of nausea and fatigue convinced her to see a doctor. The news hit her like a thunderclap: she was pregnant. Fear, shame, and confusion flooded her. This child was a reminder of that terrible night, the betrayal she had endured. But as the days passed, Emily realized the truth: this innocent life was hers to protect. The baby wasn't at fault, and she wouldn't let it suffer for the sins of others. Determined, Emily found work as an administrative assistant at a small firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was enough. She worked tirelessly, building a stable life for her child, finding solace in routine, and reclaiming her sense of purpose. Months later, Emily gave birth to a son, Nathan. Holding him for the first time, tears streamed down her face, not from sadness, but from a deep, overwhelming love. Nathan became the light in her life, the reason to rise each morning, and a symbol of her resilience. Though the whispers of judgment and scandal followed her, Emily refused to bow. She poured her energy into raising Nathan, rebuilding her life, and refusing to let her former friends have power over her anymore. But deep inside, a fire still burned. Emily knew that one day, she would confront those who had betrayed her. Not for revenge alone, but to reclaim her dignity, her strength, and her life. Emily's new life in the quiet town with Aunt Margaret was a stark contrast to the chaos she had left behind in Lagos. The streets here were calmer, the air fresher, and the nights quieter, but the memories of betrayal and humiliation still haunted her. She spent most days caring for Nathan, the little boy who had become the anchor of her life. Each smile, each small milestone, reminded her that despite what had been taken from her, she still had a reason to move forward. Evenings were the hardest. The quiet moments allowed her mind to wander back to that night, the lounge, the drinks, the hotel room, and Ryan. But Emily refused to let fear control her. She reminded herself that she was no longer the helpless woman her former friends had tried to destroy. She was stronger, wiser, and determined to take back the life she deserved. A few weeks into her new routine, Emily returned to the doctor to discuss her pregnancy. Her mind was a whirlwind of anxiety. Raising a child alone would be difficult, but she was determined to face it head-on. Aunt Margaret, ever supportive, offered comfort and guidance, insisting that Emily focus on building a life of stability and love for her child. "It won't be easy," Margaret said gently, "but you're stronger than you think. Nathan will have everything he needs if you keep your heart and mind focused." Emily nodded, the resolve solidifying within her. She found a modest apartment, one that was just enough for her and Nathan. Every corner she decorated, every small choice she made, felt like reclaiming her life. Slowly, Emily carved out a new rhythm, waking early to prepare breakfast, working during the day, and spending evenings with Nathan, reading stories and teaching him simple lessons about courage and kindness. Months passed, and Nathan grew stronger and healthier each day. Emily threw herself into work, taking a position as an administrative assistant at a small but reputable firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it allowed her to provide for her child while she saved for the future. Each paycheck, each small accomplishment, was a victory against the shadows of her past. Yet, even as her life began to stabilize, Emily couldn't shake the unease that lingered in her heart. She knew that one day, the past would catch up with her. And she was right. One afternoon, while attending a local business networking event organized by her firm, Emily was introduced to a tall, confident man named Christopher. He had a commanding presence, the kind of authority that drew the attention of everyone in the room. Emily felt a strange familiarity in his gaze, as if he was trying to place her face, though she had no idea who he was. "Emily," he said after a brief introduction, "I've heard good things about your work here. Very impressive." She smiled politely, though the unease in her chest grew. There was something about him that tugged at her memory, something she couldn't quite place. For Christopher, the encounter stirred a long-buried memory. Years ago, he had been in Lagos for a high-stakes business trip as the CEO of Forex Bank. A night of celebrations with colleagues had led to a hazy, alcohol-fueled evening, one he had long tried to forget. And now, faced with Emily, memories of that night came flooding back. He remembered waking up in a hotel room, disoriented and guilt-ridden, vaguely recalling a woman who had been there with him. But at the time, he had buried the memory under work and responsibility. Now, standing before Emily, he realized the truth: she was the woman from that night. Christopher spent the following days piecing together the details, seeking to understand what had really happened. The realization struck him hard: Emily had been drugged and placed in a situation beyond her control. Anger and guilt burned in him. He knew he had to make amends. Meanwhile, Emily's life continued with its delicate balance of work and motherhood. Nathan thrived, his laughter filling their small apartment, bringing joy back into her heart. Emily found solace in her routine, slowly regaining the confidence that had been stripped from her. Then, one afternoon, Christopher appeared again. He asked to meet her privately, explaining that he wanted to clarify something from the past. Emily's initial reaction was cautious. She had learned the hard way that people could betray even those closest to them. But there was something earnest in his demeanor that made her hesitate. "I know this may be difficult to believe," Christopher began, "but I want to tell you the truth about that night in Lagos. I didn't know what was happening to you, and I've regretted it ever since." Emily listened, skepticism etched on her face. "Do you?" she asked quietly, her eyes narrowing. "Yes," he replied, his voice sincere. "I was reckless and naive. My friends arranged everything while I was intoxicated. I had no idea you were being harmed. I've thought about it every day since, and I want to make things right, for you and for Nathan." Emily's heart ached with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Part of her wanted to reject him outright, to shield herself from further pain. But another part, the part that wanted the best for Nathan, recognized the truth in his words. "I don't know if I can forgive you," she admitted softly. "But Nathan deserves stability, and if you truly mean what you're saying, you'll have to prove it." Christopher nodded, determination clear in his eyes. "I will, Emily. I'll do everything I can to support both of you. No excuses, no conditions, just responsibility." From that moment, Christopher began to show his commitment. He provided steady support for Nathan, helping with daycare fees, arranging financial stability, and even setting up a trust fund for the boy's future. For Emily, his actions spoke louder than words, slowly rebuilding trust brick by brick. Christopher didn't overstep boundaries. He understood the delicate nature of their situation and moved with patience, letting Emily lead the way. He also encouraged her to pursue her dreams, something she had abandoned in the chaos of betrayal and motherhood. Emily had always wanted to be a fashion designer, and Christopher connected her with industry professionals willing to mentor her. At first, Emily hesitated. Could she really trust someone again? Could she allow herself to chase her dreams while caring for Nathan? Slowly, she agreed, enrolling in part-time fashion design classes and balancing her new career aspirations with motherhood. Each small success, each step forward, was a victory over the pain of the past. As months passed, Emily's confidence grew. She juggled work, school, and parenting with determination, and Nathan blossomed under her care. She had transformed her life from one defined by betrayal into one defined by resilience. Then came the invitation that would test her resolve. Sarah, Claire, and Jessica, the very women who had orchestrated her downfall, invited her to a Christmas Eve gathering at a luxurious beach house. Emily knew their motives were likely impure, designed to humiliate her further or relive the old wounds. Christopher, ever supportive, encouraged her to attend. "Show them you're not the same woman they thought they could break," he advised. "But be careful. Plan your steps." Emily agreed, but this time she was prepared. She would not be a victim again. She studied the evidence she had gathered over the months, the betrayals, the lies, the damning truths. She would confront them not with rage, but with the quiet power of someone who had risen above their cruelty. The beach house was decked in sparkling lights, the air thick with the scent of champagne and luxury. Emily arrived in a sleek, tailored dress she had designed herself, radiating quiet confidence. As she entered, the room fell silent. Her former friend's smiles faltered, replaced by thinly veiled apprehension. Emily greeted them coolly, taking a glass of wine from a passing waiter. The small talk was strained, each word carrying the tension of unspoken histories. Soon, Claire, the instigator, began probing. "How's life as a single mother?" she asked, a smirk on her face. Emily's eyes sparkled with calm determination. "Nathan is thriving, and I've started my own fashion brand. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't waste your time plotting against others." The words landed like ice water. Sarah and Jessica shifted uncomfortably. Emily continued, her voice measured but sharp. She laid out the truths they had tried to hide, the financial manipulations, the deceitful affairs, and the lies that had almost ruined her life. By the end of the evening, Emily continued, her voice measured but sharp. She laid out the truths they had tried to hide, the financial manipulations, the deceitful affairs, and the lies that had almost ruined her life. By the end of the evening, Emily had not only confronted them but had done so with an undeniable strength that left them speechless. She didn't gloat, she simply reminded them that her life was hers to reclaim, and they would no longer have power over her. Walking away from the beach house, Emily felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. Christopher waited outside, his presence a steady reassurance. "How did it go?" he asked. Emily smiled, a quiet victory washing over her. "Exactly as it should," she replied. The sun dipped low over the Lagos skyline, casting golden streaks across the busy streets below. Emily had returned to the city, not as the timid, betrayed woman who had fled months earlier, but as a force quietly shaping her destiny. Her son Nathan, now a lively and curious 3-year-old, was her constant inspiration. Every step she took was fueled by the promise of a better future, for both of them. Emily had carefully crafted a life that balanced work, motherhood, and her budding fashion brand. Christopher's presence remained steady in her life, though she had maintained firm boundaries. She had learned that true strength wasn't in revenge alone, but in rebuilding oneself so completely that past enemies could no longer touch you. It was during a business networking event that Emily felt the familiar stir of the past. She spotted Sarah, Claire, and Jessica across the room, mingling with other high-profile guests. Their eyes flickered toward her and Christopher, a mixture of recognition and unease painting their expressions. Emily's heart didn't race with fear anymore, it surged with clarity. She was no longer a victim, she was a woman in full command of her life. Christopher leaned in, his voice low but warm. "You ready for this?" Emily nodded. "Let's finish it." The first move was subtle. Emily began conversations with influential guests, introducing herself not as a wronged woman, but as a successful entrepreneur whose fashion brand was quickly gaining national recognition. Her confidence drew admiration. Soon, whispers began circulating about the three women who had once attempted to destroy her. Rumors of embezzlement, affairs, and falsified credentials were now framed in the context of Emily's undeniable rise. Sarah, who had once relished humiliating Emily, felt the shift immediately. Her own company had been teetering on the brink of scandal, and Emily's quiet network of support was exposing her every misstep. Claire's affair was on the verge of leaking to the press, threatening her husband's political career, and Jessica's falsified credentials were catching up to her with alarming speed. For the first time, they felt the power of the consequences of their actions. But Emily's plan wasn't about humiliation. It was about justice, a measured reckoning that allowed her to reclaim dignity, not stoop to cruelty. She carefully coordinated meetings with journalists, lawyers, and industry insiders, presenting evidence she had painstakingly gathered. Each move was precise, deliberate, and merciless in its efficacy. Meanwhile, Christopher continued to support Emily quietly, ensuring Nathan's well-being and lending financial and strategic guidance to her brand. His respect for Emily's autonomy strengthened their bond, creating a foundation built on trust and mutual admiration. One afternoon, as Emily prepared for a high-profile fashion showcase, she received an unexpected invitation, a Christmas Eve gala at the luxurious beach house where her former friends had tried to humiliate her months ago. She knew instantly that Sarah, Claire, and Jessica were behind it, hoping to see her stumble once more. But this time, Emily saw it as an opportunity. She arrived at the gala in a stunning ensemble of her own design, turning heads as she moved through the crowd with Nathan in hand. Sarah's eyes widened in recognition, Claire's smile faltered, and Jessica's hands trembled as she adjusted her hair. Emily had become a living testament to resilience. Emily approached them calmly, her voice measured but firm. "Good evening, ladies. It's been a while." They attempted polite smiles, but Emily could sense the tension thickening. She began to reveal her growth, the success of her brand, the love and stability she had cultivated for Nathan, and her unwavering strength despite their betrayal. Then, with the precision of a master strategist, she laid out the evidence of their wrongdoings: Sarah's financial manipulations, Claire's extramarital affair, and Jessica's falsified credentials. The room fell silent. Gasps and whispers echoed as the truth sank in. Emily didn't gloat, she simply let the facts speak. Her presence, calm yet commanding, was a force none of them could resist. The fallout was swift. Sarah's company discovered her embezzlement and she was fired in disgrace, facing legal scrutiny. Claire's affair became public, her marriage crumbling and her political circle shunning her. Jessica's fraudulent credentials were exposed, leading to professional ruin. Each woman, once proud and cruel, now faced the consequences of their envy and deceit. For Emily, the victory was more than just justice, it was liberation. She had not only reclaimed her dignity but also ensured that those who sought to harm her could no longer manipulate or intimidate anyone else. She had risen, not by revenge alone, but by resilience, intelligence, and unwavering self-respect. As the city celebrated the holiday season, Emily returned home with Nathan, her heart lighter than it had been in years. Christopher joined them, a constant presence and a partner in every sense of the word. Together, they walked along the beach at sunset, Nathan's laughter blending with the rhythmic waves. "Emily," Christopher said softly, taking her hand in his, "I've made mistakes in my life, but loving you and Nathan is not one of them. I want to spend the rest of my life making you both happy. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Emily's eyes, but this time they were tears of joy and relief. She smiled, nodding, her heart finally at peace. "Yes," she whispered, her voice steady and full of certainty. The news of their engagement spread quickly, sending ripples of astonishment through the social circles of Sarah, Claire, and Jessica. Their envy had been their undoing, and the woman they had once tried to destroy now stood taller than ever. Emily's wedding with Christopher was intimate yet filled with warmth, attended by those who had supported her journey from betrayal to triumph. In the months that followed, Emily's fashion brand flourished. Nathan grew surrounded by love, security, and the knowledge that his mother could overcome anything. Christopher and Emily built a life together based on trust, respect, and shared purpose. Their bond was a testament to the power of redemption and the strength found in facing the past without fear. Sarah, Claire, and Jessica were left to rebuild what remained of their lives. The memory of Emily's composure, intelligence, and success haunted them, a reminder that cruelty and envy are always met with consequences. For Emily, every challenge she had faced, the betrayal of friends, the loss of love, the threat to her reputation, became part of a story she could finally own. She had transformed pain into power, betrayal into wisdom, and heartbreak into a life filled with hope, joy, and justice. As she stood on the balcony of her Lagos apartment, Nathan playing at her feet and Christopher by her side, Emily allowed herself a moment to breathe, to reflect, and to savor the life she had fought so hard to reclaim. The city lights shimmered like stars below, a reminder that even after darkness, there is always light. Emily had survived, thrived, and triumphed. And this time, no one could ever take that away from her.